अनंत त्रिगुण स्वरूप साई दयालु साई कृपालु साई अनंत त्रिगुण स्वरूप नमो साई नाथं 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 नमो साई नाथं
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Bless us, Sai, bless us, Sai, bless thy child, Sai. Answer our prayers, strengthen our devotion. Bless us, Sai, bless us, Sai. Remove our sorrows, shower us with happiness. Listen to thy child's prayer. Bless us, Sai, bless us, Sai. Sai is life, Sai is prayer, Sai is kirtan, Sai is wealth. Sai is bliss, Sai is heaven. Bless us, Sai, bless us, Sai. Sai is contentment, Sai is peace. Sai is God incarnate, Sai is universe, Sai is mercy, Sai is wisdom. Bless us, Sai, bless us, Sai. Sai is righteousness, Sai is deliverance, Sai is absolute reality. Bless us, Sai, bless us, Sai. Sai is Christ, Sai is Nanak, Sai is Hindu, Sai is Muslim. Sai is truth, Sai is nectar. Bless us, Sai, bless us, Sai. Sai is Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma. Sai is simple, loving, caring. Sai is mother, father, guru. Sai is Brahm, Sai is soul. Bless us, Sai, bless us, Sai.
Day 6, Chapter 36. This chapter relates the wonderful stories of two gentlemen from Goa and Mrs. Aurangabadkar of Sholapur. Two gentlemen. Once two gentlemen came from Goa for taking darshan of Sai Baba and prostrated themselves before him. Though both came together, Baba only asked one of them to give him 15 rupees as dakshina, which was paid willingly. The other man voluntarily offered 35 rupees. This sum was rejected by Baba to the astonishment of all. Shama, who was present, asked Baba, "What is this? Both come together. Once dakshina you accept, the other, though voluntarily paid, you refuse. Why this distinction?" Baba replied, "Shama, you know nothing. I take nothing from anybody. The Masjid Mai, the presiding deity of the masjid, calls for the debt. The donor pays it and becomes free. Have I any home, property, or family to look after? I require nothing. I am ever free. Debt, enmity, and murder have to be atoned for. There is no escape." Baba then continued in his characteristic way as follows. At first he was poor and took a vow to his God that he would pay his first month's salary if he got an appointment. He got one on 15 rupees a month. Then he steadily got promotions. From 15 rupees, he got 30, then 60, then 100, then 200, and ultimately 700 rupees per month. But in his prosperity, he forgot clean the vow he took. The force of his karma has driven him here, and I asked that amount, 15 rupees, from him as dakshina. Another story. While wandering by the seaside, I came to a huge mansion and sat on its veranda. The owner gave me a good reception and fed me sumptuously. He showed me a neat and clean place near a cupboard for sleeping. I slept there. While I was sound asleep, the man removed a laterite slab and broke the wall, entered in, and scissored off all the money from my pocket. When I woke up, I found that 30,000 rupees were stolen. I was greatly distressed and sat weeping and moaning. The money was in currency notes, and I thought that the Brahmin had stolen it. I lost all interest in food and drink and sat for a fortnight on the veranda, bemoaning my loss. After the fortnight was over, a passing fakir saw me crying and made inquiries regarding the cause of my sorrow. I told him everything. He said, if you If you act according to my bidding, you will recover your money. Go to a fakir. I shall give his whereabouts. Surrender yourself to him. He will get back your money. In the meanwhile, give up your favorite food till you recover your money. I followed the fakir's advice and got my money. Then I left the wada and went to the seashore. There was a steamer, but I could not get into it as it was crowded. There a good-natured peon interceded for me, and I got in, luckily. That brought me to another shore, where I caught a train and came to the Masjid Mai. The story finished, and Baba asked Shama to take the guests and arrange for their feeding. Then Shama took them home and fed them. At dinner, Shama said to the guests that Baba's story was rather mysterious, as he had never gone to the seaside, never had any money, 30,000 rupees, never travelled, never lost any money, and never recovered it, and inquired whether they understood it and caught its significance. The guests were deeply moved and were shedding tears. In a choking voice, they said that Baba was omniscient, infinite, the one, Para Brahma, without a second. The story he gave out is exactly our story. What he spoke has already taken place in our case. How he knew this is a wonder of wonders. We shall give all the details after the meals. Then, after the meals, while they were chewing betel leaves, the guests began to tell their stories. One of them said, "A hill station on the Ghats is my native place. I went to Goa to earn my living by securing a job. I took a vow to God Datta that if I got any service, I would offer him my first month's salary. By his grace, I got an appointment of 15 rupees, and then I got promotions as described by Baba. I did forget all about my vow. Baba has just reminded me of it in this way and recovered 15 rupees from me. It is not dakshina as one may think it to be, but a repayment of an old debt and fulfillment of long-forgotten vow." Moral. Baba never in fact actually begged any money, nor allowed his bhaktas to beg. He regarded money as a danger or bar to spiritual progress and did not allow his bhaktas to fall into its clutches. Bhagat Malsapati is an instance on this point. He was very poor and could hardly make both ends meet. Baba never allowed him to take any money, nor gave him anything from the dakshina amount. Once a kind and liberal merchant named Hansraj gave a large amount of money to Malsapati in Baba's presence, but Baba did not allow him to accept it. Then the second guest began his tale. "My Brahmin cook was serving me faithfully for 35 years. Unfortunately, he fell into bad ways. His mind changed and he robbed me of my treasure by removing a laterite slab from my wall where my cupboard is fixed. He came in while we were asleep and carried away all my accumulated wealth, 30,000 rupees in currency notes. I know not how Baba mentioned the exact amount. I sat crying day and night. My inquiries came to nothing. I spent a fortnight in great anxiety. As I sat on the veranda, sad and dejected, a passing fakir noted my condition and inquired of its cause, and I told him all about it. He told me that an Avalya by name Sai lives in Shirdi, Kopargaon Taluka. Make vow to him and give up any food that you like best, and say to him mentally that I give up eating that food till I take your darshan. Then I took the vow and gave up eating rice and said, Baba, I will eat it after recovering my property and after taking your darshan. 15 days passed after this. The Brahmin of his own accord came to me, returned my money, and apologized, saying, I went mad and acted thus. I now place my head on your feet. Please forgive me. Thus everything ended well. The fakir that met me and helped me was not seen again. An intensive desire to see Sai Baba, whom the fakir pointed out to me, arose in my mind. I thought that the fakir who came all the way to my house was no other than Sai Baba. Would he, who saw me and helped me to get my lost money, ever covet to get 35 rupees? On the contrary, without expecting anything from us, he always tries his best to lead us on the path of spiritual progress. I was overjoyed when I recovered my stolen property, and being infatuated, I forgot all about my vow. Then, when I was at Kolaba one night, I saw Sai Baba in my dream. This reminded me of my promised visit to Shirdi. I went to Goa, and from there, wanted to start for Shirdi by taking a steamer to Bombay en route. But when I came to the harbour, I found that the steamer was crowded and there was no place. The captain did not allow me, but on the intercession of a peon, who was a stranger to me, I was allowed to get into the steamer, which brought me to Bombay. From there, I got in the train and came here. Surely, I think that Baba is all-pervading and all-knowing. What are we and where is our home? How great our good fortune that Baba got back our money and drew us here to himself. You Shirdi folk must be infinitely superior and more fortunate than we, for Baba has played, laughed, talked and lived with you for so many years. I think that your store of good merits must be infinite, for it attracted Baba into Shirdi. Sai is our datta. He ordered the vow, he gave me a seat in the steamer and brought me here, and thus gave proof of his omniscience and omnipotence. Mrs. Aurangabadkar. A lady from Sholapur, wife of Sakaram Aurangabadkar, had no issue during the long period of 27 years. She had made a number of vows of gods and goddesses for an issue, but was not successful. She then became almost helpless. To make a last attempt in this matter, she came to Shirdi with her stepson Vishwanath and stayed there for 2 months, serving Baba. Whenever she went to the masjid, she found it full and Baba surrounded by devotees. She wanted to see Baba alone, fall at his feet and open her heart and pray for an issue, but she got no suitable opportunity. Ultimately, she requested Shama to intercede with Baba for her when he was alone. Shama said to her that Baba's darbar was open, still he would try for her and that the Lord might bless her. He asked her to sit ready with a coconut and joss sticks on the open courtyard at the time of Baba's meals, and that when he beckoned to her, she should come up. One day after dinner, Shama was rubbing Baba's wet hands with a towel when the latter pinched Shama's cheek. Shama, feigning anger, said, "Deva, is it proper for you to pinch me like this? We don't want such a mischievous God who pinches us thus. Are we your dependents? Is this the fruit of our intimacy?" Baba replied, "O Shama, during the 72 generations that you were with me, I never pinched you till now, and now you resent my touching you?" Shama said, "We want a God that will ever give us kisses and sweets to eat. We do not want any respect from you or heaven. Let our faith unto your feet be ever wide awake." Baba said, "Yes, I have indeed come for that. I have been feeding and nursing you, and I've got love and affection for you." Then Baba went up and took his seat. Shama beckoned to the lady. She came up, bowed, and presented the coconut and joss sticks. Baba shook the coconut, which was dry. The kernel within rolled and made a noise. Baba said, "Shama, this is rolling. See what it says." So Shama said, "The woman prays that a child might be similarly rolling and quickening in the womb. So give her the coconut with your blessings." Baba said, "Will the coconut give her any issue? How people are foolish and fancy such things." Shama said, "I know the prayer of your word and blessing. Your word will give her a string or series of children. You are wrangling and not giving real blessing." The parley went on for a while, Baba repeatedly ordering to break the coconut and Shama pleading for the gift of the unbroken fruit to the lady. Finally, Baba yielded and said she will have an issue. "When?" asked Shama. "In 12 months," was the reply. The coconut was therefore broken into 2 parts. One was eaten by the 2, the other was given to the lady. Then Shama turned up to the lady and said, "Dear madam, you are a witness to my words. If within 12 months you do not get any issue, I will break a coconut against this Deva's head and drive him out of this masjid. If I fail in this, I will not call myself Madhav. You will soon realize what I say." She delivered a son in 1 year's time, and the son was brought to Baba in his 5th month. Both husband and wife prostrated themselves before Baba, and the grateful father, Mr. Aurangabadkar, paid a sum of 500 rupees, which was spent in constructing a shed for Baba's house, Shamakarna. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 37, the Dowry Procession. In this chapter, Hemabund, after making some preliminary observations on some points of Vedanta, describes the Dowry Procession. Preliminary. Blessed is Sai's life, blessed is his daily routine. His ways and actions are indescribable. Sometimes he was intoxicated with Brahmanand, and other times content with self-knowledge. Doing so many things sometimes, he was unconcerned with them. Though he seemed at times quite actionless, he was not idle or dozing. He always abided in his own self. Though he looked calm and quiet as a placid sea, he was deep and unfathomable. Who can describe his ineffable nature? He regarded men as brothers, women as sisters, as mothers. He was a perfect and perpetual celebrate, as everybody knows. May the understanding and knowledge we got in his company last long unto death. Let us ever serve him with wholehearted devotion to his feet. Let us see him in all beings, and let us ever love his name. Hemaband, after making some lengthy dissertations on some topics of Vedanta, which he himself considers as a digression, goes on to describe the Jowri procession. Jowri procession. Baba's dormitory has already been described. One day he slept in the masjid and on the next in the Jowri. This alternate sleeping in both these buildings went on until Baba's Mahasamadhi. On the 10th of December 1909, devotees began to offer regular worship to Baba in the Jowri. This we will now describe with his grace. When the turn of returning to the Jowri came, people flocked to the masjid and made bhajan in the mandap for a few hours. Behind them was a beautiful rath, to the right a Tulsi Vrindavan, and in front of Baba, between these, the devotees fond of bhajan. Men and women who had a liking for bhajan came in time. Some took dals, jiplis, and kartal, mridang, and gol, all musical instruments, in their hands, and conducted the bhajan. Sai Baba was the magnet who drew all the devotees to him. Outside in the open, some trimmed their torches, some decorated the palanquin, and some stood with cane sticks in their hands and uttered the cries of victory to Baba. The corner was decorated with buntings. Round the masjid, rows of burning lamps shed their light. Baba's horse, Sham Gona, stood fully decorated outside. Then Dadya Batul came with a party of men to Baba and asked him to be ready. Baba sat quiet in his place till Dadya came and helped him get up by putting his arm under Baba's armpit. Dadya called Baba by the name Mama. Really, their relationship was extremely intimate. Baba wore on his body the usual guffni, his sadka, under his armpit, and after taking jilim and tobacco and placing a cloth over his shoulder, became ready to start. Then Dadya threw a golden embroidered beautiful shawl over his body. After this, Baba moved a bundle of fuel sticks with his right toe, and then extinguished the burning lamp with his right hand, and started for the Jowri. Then all sorts of musical instruments gave out their different sounds, and fireworks exhibited the different various coloured views. Men and women singing Baba's name started singing bhajans to the accompaniment of the mridang and veena. Some danced with joy and some carried various flags and standards. The Bodhas announced Baba's name, and when he came onto the steps of the masjid. The Bodhas announced Baba's name when he came onto the steps of the masjid. On the two sides of Baba stood persons who held jowris and others who fanned Baba. On the way, they spread folds of cloth onto which Baba walked, being supported by devotees' hands. Dadya Batul held the left hand and Mahasapati the right, and Babu Sahib held the umbrella over his head. In this fashion, Baba marched onto the Jowri. The fully decorated horse named Sham Gona led the way, and behind him were the carriers, the waiters, musical players, and the crowds of devotees. Hari Nam chanted to the accompaniment of music raised to the skies, and also the name of Sai. In this manner, the procession reached the corner when all the persons that joined this party seemed well pleased and delighted. On coming to this corner, Baba stood facing the Jowri and shone with a peculiar lustre. It seemed as if the face of Baba glittered like dawn, or like the glory of the rising sun. Baba stood there with a concentrated mind facing north, as if he was calling somebody. All the instruments played their music while Baba moved his right arm up and down for some time. Kakya Sahib Dixit at this time came forward with a silver plate containing flowers besmeared with red powder and threw them on Baba's body off and on. The musical instruments played their best at this juncture, and Baba's face beamed with his steady and added radiance and beauty, and all the persons drank this lustre to their heart's content. Words fail to describe the scene and splendour of this occasion. Sometimes Mahasapati began to dance and being possessed or obsessed by some deity, but all were surprised to see that Baba's concentration was not at the least disturbed. With a lantern in his hand, Dadya Batul walked on to Baba's left side and Bhagat Mahasapati on the right, holding with his hand the hem of Baba's garment. What a beautiful procession and what an expression of devotion. To witness this, men and women, poor and rich, flocked together there. Baba walked very slow. Bhaktas followed on both sides with love and devotion. With this joy pervading in the whole atmosphere of the place, the procession reached the Jowri. That scene and those days are now gone. Nobody can see them now or in the future. Still remembering and visualizing that scene and sight, we can bring solace and comfort to our minds. The dowry was also fully decorated with gold and white ceiling mirrors and so many sorts of lamps. On reaching it, Datya went ahead and spread an asan, and placing a bolster, made Baba sit there and made him wear a good coat. Then the devotees worshipped him in various ways. They put on his head a crown with a tuft above, placed garlands of flowers and jewels around his neck, and marking his forehead with vertical lines, a dot, as Vaishnav devotees do. They stared at him for long to their heart's content. They changed his headdress now and then and held it aloft on the head, fearing that Baba might throw it away. Baba knew the heart of them and meekly submitted to all their methods without objection. With these decorations, he looked wonderfully beautiful. Nana Sahib Nimunko held the umbrella with its beautiful pendant, which moved in a circle with its supporting stick. Babu Sahib Jork washed the feet of Baba in a silver dish and offered aragya and worshipped the due formalities. Then besmeared his arms with sandal paste and offered betel leaves. Baba sat on the asan, while Datya and others kept standing and falling at his feet. When Baba sat on the gurri, supporting himself against the bolster, devotees on both sides waved their jamras and fans. Shama then prepared the jilam and handed it over to Datya, who drew a flame out of it by his breath and gave it to Baba. After Baba had his smoke, it was given to Bhagat Masapati, and then it was passed round to all. Blessed was the inanimate jilim. It had first had to undergo many ordeals of penance, such as being treated by pot makers, dried in the open sun, and burnt in fire, and then it had the good fortune to get into contact with Baba's hand and his kiss. After this function was over, devotees put garlands of flowers on his neck and gave him bunches of flowers for smelling. Baba, who was dispassion or a non-attached incarnate, cared a fig for all those necklaces of jewels and garlands of flowers and other decorations, but out of real love to his devotees, he allowed them to have their own way and to please themselves. Finally, Babu Sahib Jorg waved the arati over Baba, observing all formalities, the musical instruments playing their auspicious tunes. When this arati was over, the devotees returned home, one by one saluting Baba and taking his leave. When Datya Patel, offering the jilim, scent and rosewater, rose to depart, Baba said to him lovingly, "Go if you like, but return sometimes at night and inquire after me." Replying in the affirmative, Datya left the jari and went home. Then Baba himself prepared his bed. He arranged 50 or 60 white jathas one upon the other, thus making his bed, and went to rest. We shall all now take rest and close this chapter with a request to the readers that they should remember Sai Baba and his jari procession daily before they retire and go to bed. Bhau Shri Shirdi Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 38. Baba's Handi, Disrespect of Shrine, Gala or Hodgepodge, Cup of Buttermilk. In the last chapter we described Baba's Jawari procession. In this we take up Baba's Handi, cooking pot, and some other subjects. Preliminary. Oh, blessed Sadguru Sai, we bow to you, who have given happiness to the whole world, accomplished the welfare of the devotees, and have removed the affliction of those who have resorted to your feet. Being very liberal and being the protector and saviour of the bhaktas who surrender themselves to you, you incarnate yourself in this world to oblige the people and do them good. The liquid essence of pure self was poured into the mould of Brahma, and out of this has come out the crest jewel of the saints, Sai. This Sai is Atma Rama himself. He is the abode of perfect divine bliss. Having himself attained all objects of life, he made his devotees desireless and free. Baba's Handi. Different sadhanas, means of accomplishments, are prescribed in our scriptures for different ages. Tapa or penance is recommended for Krita age, Gnana or knowledge for Treta age, Yagna or sacrifice for Dvapar age, and Dana or charity for Kali, which is the present age. Of all the charities, giving food is the best one. We are much perturbed when we get no food at noon. Other beings feel similarly under similar circumstances. Knowing this, he who gives food to the poor and hungry is the best donor or charitable person. The Taittiriya Upanishad says that is Brahma. From food all the creatures are born, and having been born, by food they live, and having departed, into food again they enter. When an atiti, uninvited guest, comes to our door at noon, it is our bounden duty to welcome him by giving him food. Other kinds of charities, which is giving away wealth, property, clothes, etc., require some discrimination, but in the matter of food, no such consideration is necessary. Let anybody come to our door at noon, he should be served forthwith. And if lame, crippled, blind, and diseased paupers come, they should be fed first, and the able-bodied persons and our relations afterwards. The merit of feeding the former is much greater than that of feeding the latter. Other kinds of charities are imperfect without this annadana, giving of food, as stars are without the moon, a necklace without its central medal, a crown without pinnacle, a tank without a lotus, bhajan without love, a married lady without the kumkum mark, singing without a sweet voice, or buttermilk without salt. Just as varan, pulse soup, excels all other dishes, annadana is the best of all merits. Now let us see how Baba prepared food and distributed it to others. It has been stated before that Baba required very little food for himself, and what little he wanted was obtained by begging from a few houses. But when he took it into his mind to distribute food to all, he made all preparations from beginning to end himself. He depended on nobody, and troubled none in this matter. First he went to the bazaar and bought all the things, corn, flour, spices, etc. for cash. He did also the grinding. In the open courtyard of the masjid, he arranged a big hearth, and after lighting a fire underneath, kept a handi over it with a proper measure of water. There were two kinds of handi, one small and the other big. The former provided food for 50 persons, the latter for 100. Sometimes he cooked mite chawal, which is sweet rice, and at other times pulao with meat. At times in the boiling varan, soup, he let in small balls of thick or flat breads of wheat flour. He pounded the spices on a stone slab and put the thin pulverized spices into the cooking pot. He took all the pains to make the dishes very palatable. He prepared ambil by boiling jawari flour in water and mixing it with buttermilk. With the food he distributed this ambil to all alike. To see whether the food was properly cooked or not, Baba rolled up the sleeve of his kafni and put his bare arm in the boiling cauldron without the least fear, and churned the whole mass from side to side and up and down. There was no mark of burn on his arm, no fear on his face. When the cooking was over, Baba got the pots in the masjid and had them duly consecrated by the Maulvi. First he sent part of the food as prasad to Malsapati and Tatya Patil, and then he served the remaining contents with his own hand to all the poor and helpless people to their heart's content. Really blessed and fortunate must be those people who got food prepared by Baba and served by him. Somebody may raise a doubt here and ask, Baba distributed vegetable and animal food as prasad alike to all his devotees? The answer is plain and simple. Those who were accustomed to take animal food were given food from the handi as prasad, and those who were not so accustomed were not allowed to touch it. He never created in them any wish or desire to indulge in this food. There is a principle well established that when a guru himself gives anything as prasad, the disciple who thinks and doubts whether it is acceptable or otherwise goes to perdition. In order to see how any disciple has imbibed this principle, Baba at times proposed tests. For instance, on an Ekadashi day he gave some rupees to Dada Kelkar and asked him to go in person to Koralda to get mutton from there. This Dada Kelkar was an orthodox Brahmin and kept all orthodox manners in his life. He knew that offering wealth, grain, and clothes, etc. to a Sadguru was not enough, but that implicit obedience to and prompt compliance with his order was the real dakshina that pleased him most. So Dada Kelkar dressed himself and started for the place. Then Baba called him back and said, "Don't go yourself, but send somebody." Then Dada sent servant Pandu for the purpose. Seeing him starting, Baba asked Dada to call him back and cancelled that program. On another occasion, Baba asked Dada just to see how the saltish pulao, mutton dish, was done. The latter said casually and formally that it was all right. Then Baba said to him, "You haven't seen it with your eyes, nor tasted it with your tongue. Then how could you say that it was good? Just take out the lid and see." Saying this, Baba caught his arm and thrust it into the pot and added, "Out your arm, and taking a ladle, put some quantity in the dish without caring for your orthodoxy and without blustering." When a wave of real love rises in a mother's mind, she pinches her child with her hand, and when it begins to cry and shout, she hugs it close to her bosom. Similarly, Baba, in a true motherly way, pinched Dada Kelkar in this fashion. Really, no saint or guru will ever force his orthodox disciple to eat forbidden food and defile himself thereby. The handi business went on for some time till 1910 and was stopped thereafter. As stated before, Das Ganu spread the fame of Baba by his kirtans far and wide in the Bombay Presidency, and people from that part of the country began to flock to Shirdi, which became in a few days a place of pilgrimage. The devotees brought with them various articles for presentation and offered various dishes of food as naivedya. The quantity of naivedya offered by them was so much that the fakirs and paupers could feed themselves to their heart's content, leaving some surplus behind. Before stating how naivedya was distributed, we shall refer to Nana Sahib Chandorkar's story, showing Baba's regard and respect for local shrines and deities. Nana Sahib's disrespect of a shrine. By drawing inferences or guessing in their own way, some people said that Sai was a Brahmin, and some that he was a Muslim. Really, he belonged to no caste. No one knew definitely when he was born and in what community and who were his parents. Then how could he be a Muslim or Brahmin? If he were a Muslim, how could he keep Duni fire ever burning in the masjid? How could there be a Tulsi Vrindavan there? How could he allow the blowing of conches and ringing of bells, and the playing of musical instruments? How could he allow all the different forms of Hindu worship there? Had he been a Muslim, could he have pierced ears and could he have spent money from his pocket for repairing Hindu temples? On the contrary, he never tolerated the slightest disrespect to Hindu shrines and deities. Once, Nana Sahib Chandorkar came to Shirdi with his Saru, husband of his sister-in-law, Mr. Biniwale. When they went to the masjid and sat before Baba talking, the latter suddenly got angry with Nana Sahib and said, "You are so long in my company, and how do you behave like this?" Nana Sahib then at first did not understand anything and humbly requested Baba to explain. Baba asked him when he came to Kopargaon and how he came to Shirdi from thence. Nana Sahib then at once realized his mistake. He usually worshipped the shrine of Datta on the banks of the Godavari at Kopargaon on his way to Shirdi, but this time he dissuaded his relation, who was a Datta Bhakta, from going to that shrine to avoid delay and drove straight. He confessed all this to Baba and told him that while bathing in Godavari, a big thorn went into his foot and gave him much trouble. Baba said that was the slight punishment be met. And warned him to be more careful in future. Kala or hodgepodge. To revert to the distribution of Naivedya, after the Aarti was over and after Baba sent away all the people with Udi and blessings, he went inside and sat with his back to the Nimbar for meals, with 2 rows of bhaktas, one on each side. The bhaktas who brought Naivedya thrust inside their dishes containing a variety of food, such as puris, mande, polis, basundi, sanza, fine rice, etc., and kept waiting outside for prasad consecrated by Baba. All the foods were mixed in a hodgepodge and placed before Baba. He offered it all to God and consecrated it. Portions of the same were given to the persons waiting outside, and the rest were served to the inner party with Baba at the centre. The bhaktas sitting in 2 rows then dined to their heart's content. Baba, Shama and Nana Sahib Nimonkar daily to serve the consecrated food to all the persons sitting inside and look to their individual needs and comforts. This they did very carefully and willingly. Every morsel of the food thus partaken gave them nutrition and satisfaction. Such sweet, lovely and consecrated food it was, ever auspicious and ever holy. Cup of buttermilk. Once, Himad Pant had eaten his full in this company when Baba offered him a cup of buttermilk. Its white appearance pleased him, but he was afraid that there was no space inside for it. He, however, took a sip, which proved very tasty. Seeing his faltering attitude, Baba said, "It all, you won't get any such opportunity hereafter." He drank it off then, but found that Baba's words were prophetic, for he passed away soon. Now, readers, we have certainly to thank Himad Pant. He drank the cup of buttermilk, but has supplied us with sufficient quantity of nectar in the form of Baba's Leelas. Let us drink cups and cups of this nectar and be satisfied and happy. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 39 to Chapter 50, Baba's knowledge of Sanskrit. His interpretation of a verse from Gita, construction of the Samadhi Mandir. This chapter 39 deals with Baba's interpretation of a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, as some people believe that Baba knew no Sanskrit, and the interpretation was Nana Sahib Chandorkar's Hemant Pad wrote another chapter, number 50, refuting that charge. As the chapter number 50 deals with the same subject matter, it is incorporated into this chapter. Preliminary. Blessed is Shirdi and blessed is Dwarkamai, where Shri Sai lived and moved until he took Mahasamadhi. Blessed are the people of Shirdi whom he obliged and for whom he came such long distance. Shirdi was a small village first, but it attained great importance on the account of his contact and became a tirtha, holy place of pilgrimage. Equally blessed are the women folk of Shirdi. Blessed is their whole and undivided faith in him. They sang the glories of Baba while bathing, grinding, pounding corn, and doing other household work. Blessed is their love through which they sang sweet songs, which calm and pacify the minds of the singers and listeners. Baba's interpretation. Nobody believed that Baba knew Sanskrit. One day he surprised all by giving good interpretation of a verse from the Gita to Nana Sahib Chandorkar. A brief account about this matter was written by Mr. B.V. Dev, retired Mamlatdar, and published in Marathi in Shri Sai Leela magazine, volume 4. Spruta Vishaya, page 563. Short accounts of the same are also published in Sai Baba's Charters and Sayings, page 61, and in the wondrous Saint Sai Baba, page 36, both by Brother V.B. Narasimha Swami. Mr. B.V. Dev has also given an English version of this in his statement, dated 27 September 1936, and published on page 66 of Devotees' Experiences, Part 3, published by the said Swami. As Mr. Dev has got first-hand information about this subject from Nana Sahib himself, we give below his version. Nana Sahib Chandorkar was a good student of Vedanta. He had read Gita with commentaries and prided himself on his knowledge of all that. He fancied that Baba knew nothing of all this or of Sanskrit. So Baba one day pricked the bubble. These were the days before crowds flocked to Baba. When Baba had solitary talks at the mosque with such devotees, Nana was sitting near Baba and massaging his legs and muttering something. Baba said, "Nana, what are you mumbling to yourself?" Nana said, "I am reciting a shloka verse from Sanskrit." Baba said, "What shloka?" Nana said, "From Bhagavad Gita." Baba said, "Utter it loudly." Nana then recited Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 34, which is as follows. Tadvidi prani patena pari prashnena sevaya upadekshayanti te dhyanam dhyanina satvadeshinaha. Baba said, "Nana, do you understand it?" Nana said, "Yes." Baba said, "If you do, then tell me." Nana said, "It means this: making Shatanga Namaskar, i.e. prostration, questioning the Guru, serving him, learn what this dhyan is. Then those dhyanis that have attained the real knowledge of the Sadvastu Brahma will give you Upadesh, instruction of the dhyan." Baba said, Nana, I do not want this sort of collected purport of the whole stanza. Give me each word, its grammatical form, force, and meaning. Then Nana explained it word by word. Baba said, Nana, is it enough to make prostration merely? Nana said, I do not know any other meaning for the word pranipata than making prostration. Baba said, what is pariprashna? Nana said, asking questions. Baba said, what does prashna mean? Nana said the same, questioning. Baba said, if pariprashna means the same as prashna, question, why did Vyasa add the prefix pari? Was Vyasa off his head? Nana said, I do not know of any other meaning of the word pariprashna. Baba said, seva. What sort of seva is meant? Nana said, just what we are always doing. Baba said, is it enough to render such service? Nana said, I do not know what more is signified by the word seva. Baba said, in the next line, upadekshanti dhyanam, can you so read it as to read any other word in lieu of dhyanam? Nana said, yes. Baba said, what word? Nana said, ajnanam. Baba, taking that word instead of dhyan, is any meaning made out of this verse? Nana said, no, Shankara Bhashya gives no such construction. Baba said, never mind if he does not. Is there any objection to using the word adhyan if it gives a better sense? Nana said, I do not understand how to construe by placing adhyan in it. Baba said, why does Krishna refer to Arjun to jnanis or tattvardashis to do his prostration, interrogation, and service? Was not Krishna a tattvardashi, in fact, dhyan itself? Nana said, yes, he was, but I do not make out why he referred to Arjun to dhyanis. Baba said, have you not understood this? Nana was humiliated. His pride was knocked on the head. Then Baba began to explain. Number one, is it not enough merely to prostrate before the dhyanis? We must make sarva saranagati, complete surrender to the Sadguru. Number two, mere questioning is not enough. The question must be made with any improper motive or attitude to trap the Guru and catch at mistakes in the answer, or out of idle curiosity. It must be serious and with a view to achieve moksha or spiritual progress. Number three, seva is not rendering service, retaining still the feeling that one is free to offer or refuse service. One must feel he is not the master of the body, that the body is Guru's and exists merely to render service to him. If this is done, the Sadguru will show you that the dhyan referred to in the previous stanza is. Nana did not understand what is meant by saying that the Guru teaches ajnan. Baba, how is dhyan upadesh, i.e., imparting a realization to be effected, destroying ignorance of dhyan, of verse Ovi 1396 of Dhyaneshwari, commenting on Gita chapter 18, verse 66, says, removal of ignorance is like, O Arjun, if dream and sleep disappear, you are yourself. It is like that. Also, Ovi 83 on Gita chapter 5, verse 16 says, is there anything different of independent in dhyan besides the destruction of ignorance? Expelling darkness means light. Destroying duality, dvaita, means non-duality, advaita. Whenever we speak of destroying dvaita, we speak of advaita. Whenever we talk of destroying darkness, we talk of light. If we have to realize the advaita state, the feeling of dvaita in ourselves has to be removed. That is the realization of advaita state. Who can speak of advaita while remaining in dvaita? If one did, unless one gets into that state, how can one know it and realize it? Again, the Shishya disciple, like the Sadguru, is really embodiment of dhyan. The difference between the two lies in the attitude, high realization, marvelous superhuman sattva, beingness, and unrivaled capacity, and Aishwarya Yoga, divine powers. The Sadguru is Nirguna, Satchit Anand. He has indeed taken form to elevate mankind and raise the world, but his real Nirgun nature is not destroyed thereby, even a bit. His beingness or reality, divine power, and wisdom remained undiminished. The disciple also, in fact, of the same Swarupa, but it is overlaid by the effect of the sanskars, or innumerable births in the shape of ignorance, which hides from his view that he is Shuddha Chaitanya. See Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 15. As stated therein, he gets the impression, I am Jiva, a creature, humble and poor. The Guru has to root out these offshoots of ignorance and has to give upadesh or instruction to the disciple, held spellbound for endless generations by the ideas of his being a creature. Humble and poor, the Guru imparts in hundreds of births the teaching, you are God, you are mighty and opulent, rich. Then he realizes a bit that he is God really. The perpetual delusion under which the disciple laboring that he is the body, he is a creature, jiva, or ego, that God, Paramatma, and the world are different from him, is an error inherited from innumerable past births, from actions based on it. He has derived the joys, sorrows, and mixtures of both. To remove this delusion, this error, this root ignorance, we must start the inquiry. How did the ignorance arise? Where is it? And to show him, this is called the Guru's Upadesh. The following are the instances of Ajnan. Number 1, I am a jiva, creature. Number 2, body is the soul. I am the body. Number 3, God, world, and jiva are different. Number 4, I am not God. Number 5, not knowing that body is not the soul. Number 6, not knowing that God, world, and jiva are one. Unless these errors are exposed to his view, this disciple cannot learn what is God, jiva, world, body, how they are interrelated, and whether they are different from each other or are one and the same. To teach these and destroy his ignorance in this instruction in dhyan or adhyan, why should dhyan be imparted to the jiva? Who is a dhyanamurti? Upadesh is merely to show him his error and destroy his ignorance. Baba added, number 1, Pranipata implies surrender. Number 2, surrender must be of body, mind, and wealth. Regarding 3, why should Krishna refer Arjun to other dhyanis? Sadbhakta takes everything to be Vasudev. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 19, it implies any guru will be Krishna to the devotee, and Guru takes disciple to be Vasudeva, and Krishna treats both as his prana and Atma. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 18, commentary of the Dhyanadev on this. As Shri Krishna knows that there are such bhaktas and gurus, he refers Arjun to them so that their greatness may increase and be known. Construction of the Mahasamadhi Mandir. Baba never talked nor ever made any fuss about the things which he wanted to accomplish, but he so skillfully arranged the circumstances and surroundings that the people were surprised at the slow but sure results attained. The construction of the Samadhi Mandir is an instance in point. Sriman Bapu Sabhuti, the famous multimillionaire of Nagpur, lived in Shirdi with his family. Once an idea arose in his mind that he should have a building of his own there. Sometimes after this, while he was sleeping in Dixit Vada, he got a vision. Baba appeared in his dream and ordered him to build a vada of his own with a temple. Shama, who was sleeping there, also got a similar vision. When Bapu Sabha was awakened, he saw Shama crying and asked the latter as to why he was doing so. The latter replied that in his vision, Baba came close to him and ordered distinctly, build the vada with the temple. I shall fulfill the desires of all. On hearing the sweet and loving words of Baba, I was overpowered with emotion. My throat was choked. My eyes were overfilling with tears, and I began to cry. Babu Sahib was surprised to see that both their visions tallied. By being a rich and capable man, he decided to build a wada there and drew up a plan with Shama Madhav Rao. Kaka Sahib Dixit was also approved of it. And when it was placed before Baba, he also sanctioned it immediately. Then the construction work was duly started, and under the supervision of Shama, the ground floor, the cellar, and the well were completed. Baba also, while on his way to and from Lendi, suggested some improvements. Further work was entrusted to Bapu Sahib Jog, and when it was going on, an idea struck Bapu Sahib Bhuti's mind that there should be an open room or platform in the center, the image of Murlidhar, Lord Krishna with the flute be installed. He asked Shama to refer this matter to Baba and get his consent. The latter asked Baba about this. When he was just passing by the Vada, on hearing Shama, Baba gave his consent, saying, "After this temple is complete, I will come here to stay." And staring at the Vada, he added, "After the Vada is complete, we shall use it ourselves. We shall live, move, and play there, embrace each other, and be very happy." Then Shama asked Baba whether this was the auspicious time to begin the foundation work of the central room of the shrine. The latter answered in the affirmative. Then Shama got a coconut broken there and started the work. In due time, the work was completed, and an order was also given for making a good image of Murlidhar. But therefore it was ready in a new thing turned up. Baba became seriously ill and was about to pass away. Bapu Sahib became very sad and dejected, thinking that if Baba passed away, his wada would not be consecrated by the holy touch of Baba's feet, and all his money, about 1,00,000 rupees, would be wasted. But the words, "place or keep me in the wada," which came out of Baba's mouth just before his passing away, consoled not only Bapu Sahib, but all, one and all. In due time, Baba's holy body was placed and preserved in the central shrine, meant or designed for Murlidhar, and Baba himself became the Murlidhar, and the Wada thus became the Samadhi Mandir of Sai Baba. His wonderful life is so unfathomable. Blessed and fortunate is Bapu Sahib Bhuti, in whose Wada lies the holy and pure body of Baba. Bow to Shri Sai. Peace to all.
Chapter 40, Stories of Baba. Number 1, attending Mrs. Dev's Udyapan ceremony as a sannyasi with 2 others. And number 2, visiting Hemant Pant's house in the form of his picture. In this chapter, we give 2 stories. First, how Baba attended the Udyapan ceremony organized by Mr. B.V. Dev's mother at his house at Gahanu. And second, how Baba attended the Shimga dinner party in Hemant Pant's house at Bandra. Preliminary. Blessed is Shri Sai Samatha, who gives instructions in both temporal and spiritual matters to his devotees and makes them happy by enabling them to achieve the goal of their life. Sai, when places his hand on their heads, transfers his power to them, and thus destroying the sense of differentiation, which makes them attain the unattainable thing. He who embraces the bhaktas, who prostrate themselves before him with no sense of duality or differentiation. He becomes one with the bhaktas as the sea with the rivers. Now revert to the stories of this chapter. Mrs. Dev's Udyapan ceremony. Mr. B.V. Dev was a Malatra of Dahanu, the Thana district. His mother had observed 25 to 30 religious vows, and an Udyapan, which is a concluding ceremony in connection therewith, was to be performed. This ceremony included the feeding of 100 or 200 Brahmins. Mr. Dev fixed a date for the ceremony and wrote a letter to Bapu Sahib Jog asking him to request Sai Baba on his behalf to attend the dinner of the ceremony, as without his presence the ceremony would not be duly completed. Bapu Sahib Jog read out the letter to Baba, and Baba noted carefully the pure-hearted invitation and said, "I always think of him who remembers me. I require no conveyance. carriage, tonga, train, or an aeroplane. I manifest myself to him who lovingly calls me. Write to him and reply, 3 of us, the trio, myself, yourself, and a third person will go and attend it. Mr. Jog informed Mr. Dev of what Baba said. Mr. Dev was much pleased, and he knew that Baba never went to any place except Rahata, Rao, and Nimgaon in person. He also thought that nothing was impossible for Baba, as he was all-pervading, and that he might suddenly come in any form and fulfill his words. A few days before this, a sannyasi in a Bengali dress and professing to work for the cause of the protection of the cows came to the station master at Dahanu to collect donations. The station master told him to go into town and see the Mamlatra, Mr. Dev, and with his help collect funds. Just then, the Malatra happened to come there. The station master then introduced the sannyasi to him. Both sat on the platform. Then Mr. Dev told him that a subscription list for some other charitable cause had already been prepared by the leading citizen, Rao Sahib Narottam Sethi, and so it was not proper to start another subscription list, and that it would be better if you would visit the place in about 2 to 4 months' time. Hearing this, the sannyasi left the place. About a month afterwards, the sannyasi came in a donga. We stopped in front of Mr. Dev's house at about 10 a.m. Dev thought that he came for donations. On seeing him busy with the preparations of the ceremony, the sannyasi said that he had come not for money but for meals. Dev said, "All right, you are welcome in this house." The sannyasi said, "The 2 lads are with me." Dev said, "Well, come with them." As there were about 2 hours for the meals to be served, Dev inquired where he should send for them. He said that it was not necessary, as he would come himself at the appointed time. Dev asked him to come at noon. Exactly at 12 noon, the trio turned up, joined the party, and after feeding themselves, went away. After the ceremony was finished, Dev wrote a letter to Babu Sahib Jog complaining of Baba's breach of promise. Jog went to Baba with the letter, and before it was opened, Baba spoke. He says that I promised him to come, but I deceived him. Tell him that I did attend his dinner with 2 others, but he failed to recognize me. Then why did he call me at all? He thought that the sannyasi came to ask for subscription money. Did I not remove his doubt in that respect? Did I not say that I would come with 2 others? And did not the trio come in time and have their meals? See, to keep my words, I would sacrifice my life. I would never be untrue to my words. This reply pleased Jog's heart, and he communicated the whole reply to Dev. As soon as he read it, he burst into tears of joy, but he took himself to task mentally for vainly blaming Baba. He wondered how he was deceived by the sannyasi's prior visit and his coming to him for subscription, and how he also failed to catch the significance of the sannyasi's words that he would come with 2 others for meals. This story clearly shows that when the devotee surrenders themselves completely to their Sadguru, he sees it to that the religious functions in their houses are duly executed and complied with all the necessary formalities. Hemant Pant Shimga Dinner. Now let us take another story which shows how Baba appeared in the form of his picture and fulfilled the desire of his devotee. In the year 1917, on the morning of the full moon day, Hemant Pant had a vision. Baba appeared to him in his dream in the form of a well-dressed sannyasi, woke him up and said that he would come to him for meals that day. This vision constituted a part of the dream. When he fully woke up, he saw neither Sai nor any sannyasi. But when he began to recollect the dream, he remembered each and every word the sannyasi uttered in his dream. Though he was in contact with Baba for 7 years and always meditated on Baba, he never expected that Baba would come to his house for meals. However, being much pleased with Baba's words, he went to his wife and informed her that being the holy day of a sannyasi was coming for meals and that some more rice should be prepared. She inquired about the guest and who he was and where he was coming from. Then, not to cause any misunderstanding, he gave her the truth and told her about the dream. She doubtingly asked whether it was possible that Baba should come there to Bandra from Shirdi, leaving the dainty dishes there to accept their coarse food. Hemant then assured her that Baba might not come in person, but he might attend in the form of a guest, and that they would lose nothing if they cooked some more rice. After this, preparation for the dinner went on, and it was ready at noon. The holy cow worship was through, and the leaves were spread and arranged with the rangoli around them. 2 rows were arranged with a central seat between them for the honorable guest. All members of the family, sons, grandsons, daughters, and son-in-laws, etc., came and occupied their seats, and the serving of the various items commenced. While this was being done, everybody was watching for the guest, but none turned up, though it was past noon. Then the entrance was closed, and the anashudi, the ghee, was served. This was a signal to start eating. Formal offering of the Vishvedeva, the fire, and the Naivedya to Shri Krishna was also over, and the members were about to begin when footsteps in the staircase was heard distinctly. Hemant went immediately and opened the door and saw 2 men there, one Ali Mohammed and the other Maulana Ishmu Mujawar. These 2 persons, seeing that meals were laid out and all the members were about to begin eating, apologized to Hemant and requested him to excuse their interference. They said, "You left your seat and you came running to us. Others are waiting for you, so please take this thing and I shall relate all about it later at your convenience." Saying so, he took out from under his arm a packet wrapped in an old newspaper and placed it on the table. Hemant uncovered the packet and saw, to his great wonder and pleasant surprise, a big, nice picture of Sai Baba. On seeing it, he was much moved. Tears ran down from his eyes, hair stood on all ends of his body, and he bent and placed his head on the feet of Baba in the picture. He thought that Baba had blessed him by this miracle or lila. Out of curiosity, he asked Ali Mohammed how he got this picture. He said that he bought it from a shop and that he would give all the details about it afterwards, and wished that all the members who were waiting for him, he should go and join them. Hemant thanked them, bade them goodbye, and returned to the dining hall. The picture was placed on the central seat reserved for the guest, and after making the due offering of Naivedya, the whole party commenced eating and finished it in proper time. On seeing the beautiful form of Sai in the picture, everybody was extremely pleased and wondered how all this happened. This is how Sai Baba fulfilled his words uttered by him in the dream of Hemant. The story of the picture with all its details, that is how Ali Mohammed got it and why he brought it and gave it to Hemant, is reserved for the next chapter. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 41. Story of the Picture, Stealing the Rags and Reading of Gnaneshwari. As stated in the last chapter, we continue here the story of the picture. 9 years after the occurrence of the incident depicted in the last chapter, Ali Muhammad saw Hemant and related to him the following story. One day, while wandering in the streets of Mumbai, he bought the picture from a street hawker. Then he framed and set it on a wall in his house in Bandra, that is a suburb of Bombay. As he loved Baba, he daily took darshan of it. 3 months before he gave the picture to Ahmad Pant, he was suffering from an abscess or swelling on his leg, for which an operation was performed, and he was convalescing in the house of his brother-in-law, Mr. Noor Muhammad Pirbhoi, in Mumbai. For 3 months his house in Bandra was closed, and nobody was living there. Only the pictures of the famous Baba Abdul Rahman, Maulana Sahib Muhammad Hussain, Baba Sai, Baba Tajuddin, and other saints living were there. The wheel of time did not even spare these. He was lying sick and suffering in Mumbai. Why should the pictures suffer there in Bandra? It seems that they have also their ins and outs, births and deaths. All the pictures met their fate, but how Sai Baba's picture escaped it, nobody had been able to explain to me up till now. It shows that the all-pervasiveness, omnipresence of Sai and his inscrutable power. He got a small picture of Saint Baba Abdul Rahman from Muhammad Hussain Tariyopatan many years ago. He gave it to his brother-in-law Noor Muhammad Pirbhoi, and it was lying on his table for 8 years. Once the latter saw it, took it to a photographer, got it enlarged to life size, and distributed copies of the same amongst relations and friends, including Ali Muhammad, who fixed it up in his Bandra house. Noor Muhammad was a disciple of Saint Abdul Rahman, and when he went to present the picture to his guru in open darbar held by him, the guru got wild and ran to beat him and drove him out. He felt very sorry and dejected. He thought he lost so much of his money and incurred his guru's displeasure and anger. As his guru did not like image worship, he took the enlarged picture with him to Apollo Bundar, and after hiring a boat, went in it and drowned it in the sea. He requested the friends and relations to return their copies, and after getting them, 6 in all, back, had them thrown by a fisherman in the Bandra Sea. At this time, Ali Muhammad was in his brother-in-law's house. He was told by him that his suffering would come to an end if he would soon drown the pictures of the saints in the sea. Hearing this, Ali Muhammad sent his mehta, that is manager, to his Bandra house and got all the pictures of the saints in his house thrown into the sea. When Ali Muhammad returned home after 2 months, he was surprised to find Baba's picture on the wall as before. He did not understand how his mehta took away all the pictures except this. He immediately took it out and kept it in his cupboard, fearing that if his brother-in-law saw it, he would do away with it. While he was thinking how it should be disposed of and who would keep it and guard it well, Sai Baba himself, as it were, suggested to him that he should see and consult Maulana Ismu Mujawar and abide by his opinion. He saw the Maulana and told him everything. After mature consideration, they both decided that the picture should be presented to Anna Sahib, Ahmad, and then he would protect it well. They both went to Ahmad and presented the picture in the nick of time. This story shows how Baba knew all, past, present and future, and how skillfully he pulled the wires and fulfilled desires of his devotees. The following story shows that Baba liked very much those persons who took a real interest in matters spiritual, and that he removed all difficulties and made them happy. Stealing the rags and reading of Gnaneshwari. Mr. B.V. Dio, who was Mamlatdar of Dhanu in Thana district, wished for a long time to read Gnaneshwari, the well-known Marathi commentary on Bhagavad Gita by Gnaneshwar. along with other scriptures. He could read daily one chapter of Bhagavad Gita and some portions of other books, but when it took Gnaneshwari in hand, some difficulties cropped up and he was precluded from reading it. He took 3 months' leave, went to Shirdi and thence to his home at Pound for rest. He could read there other books, but when he opened Gnaneshwari, some evil or stray thoughts came crowding in his mind and stopped him in the effort. Try however he might, he was not able to read even a few lines of the book with ease. So he resolved in his mind that Baba would create love for the book and would order him to read it. He would begin, and not until then. Then in the month of February in 1914, he went with his family to Shirdi. There, Jog asked him whether he daily read Gnaneshwari. Dio said that he was desirous of reading it, but he was not successful, and only when Baba would order him to read it, he would commence. Jog then advised him to take a copy of the book and present it to Baba and start reading after it was consecrated and returned by him. Dio then replied that he did not want to resort to this device, as Baba knows his heart. Would he not know his desire and satisfy it by giving him a clear order to read? Dio then saw Baba and offered him 1 rupee as dakshina. Baba asked for rupees 20, which he gave. At night he saw one Balakram and inquired how he secured Baba's devotion and grace. Balakram told him that he would communicate everything next day after Aarti. When Dio went for darshan next day, Baba asked for rupees 20, which he gave willingly. As the masjid was crowded, Dio went aside and sat in a corner. Baba asked him to come close and sit with a calm mind, which Dio did. Then after the noon Aarti was over and after the men dispersed, Dio saw again Balakram and asked him his previous history, what Baba told him and how he taught meditation. Balakram was going to reply when Baba sent one Chandru, a lepo devotee, to call Dio to him. When Dio went to Baba, the latter asked him when and with whom and what he was talking. He said that he talked with Balakram and heard from him his fame. Then Baba asked again rupees 25 as dakshina, which Dio gladly gave. Then Baba took him inside and sitting near the post charged him, saying, "Stole away my rags without my knowledge." Dio denied all knowledge of the rags, but Baba asked him to make a search. He searched but found none. Then Baba got angry and said, "Is nobody here? You are the only thief. So grey-haired and old, you come here for stealing." After this, Baba lost his temper, got terribly wild, and gave all sorts of abuses and scoldings. Dio remained silent and watching, and thought that he might get a beating also. After about an hour or so, Baba asked him to go to the Vara. He returned to the Vara and told Jog and Balakram all that had happened. Then in the afternoon, Baba sent for all, and Dio also, and said that his words might have pained the old man, that is Dio, but as he committed the theft, he could not but speak out. Then Baba asked again for rupees 12. Dio collected the amount, paid it, and prostrated himself before him. Then in the afternoon, Baba sent for all and Dio and also, and said that his words might have pained the old man Dio, but as he committed the theft, he could not but speak out. Then Baba asked again for rupees 12. Dio collected the amount and paid it and prostrated before him. Then Baba said to him, "Go on a daily reading to Piti, that is Gnaneshwari. Go and sit in the Vara and read something regularly every day and while reading explained the portion read to all with love and devotion. I am sitting here, read it, give you the whole gold embroidered shela, that is valuable cloth. Then why go to others to steal rags? And why should you get into the habit of stealing? Dio was much pleased to hear the words of Baba, for he asked him to start reading Pothi, that is Gnaneshwari. He thought that he got what he wanted and that he could read the book with ease henceforth. He again prostrated himself before Baba and said he surrendered himself to him and that he should be treated as a child and be helped in his reading. He realized that what Baba meant by stealing the rags, what he asked Balakram constituted rags, and Baba did not like his behavior in this respect. As he was ready to answer any question, he did not like him to ask others and make unnecessary inquiries, and therefore he harassed and scolded him. Dio thought that he really did not harass and scold him, but taught him he was ready to fulfill his desires, and there was no use asking others in vain. Dio took these scoldings as flowers and blessings and went home satisfied and contented. The matter did not end here. Baba did not stop with only issuing an order to read. Within a year he went to Dio and inquired about his progress. On 2nd of April 1914, on Thursday morn, Baba gave his dream vision. He sat on the upper floor and asked him whether he understood the Pothi. Quote, answered Dio, Baba, when are you going to understand? Dio burst into tears and said, You show your grace, the reading is mere worry and the understanding is still more difficult. I say this definitely. Baba reading, you make haste. Read it before me in my presence. Dio, shall I read? Baba, Adhyatma, spiritualism that is. Dio went to bring the book. When he opened his eyes and was awakened, we leave the readers to imagine what ineffable joy and bliss Dio felt after the vision. Bow to Shri Sai. Peace be to all.
Chapter 42. Baba's passing away. Previous indications averting deaths of Ramachandra, Dada Patel and Tatia Kote Patel, Charitra Lakshmi Bai Shinde on the last moments. This chapter describes the passing away of Baba. Preliminary. The stories given in the previous chapter have shown that the light of Guru's grace removes out fears of this mundane existence, opens the path of salvation, and turns our misery into happiness. If we always remember the feet of the Sadguru, our troubles come to an end. Death loses its sting, and the misery of this mundane existence is obliterated. Therefore, those who care for their welfare should carefully listen to these stories of Sainath, which will purify their minds. Previous indication. The leaders up till now heard the stories of Baba's life. Let them now hear attentively Baba's passing away. Baba got a slight attack of fever on 28th of September 1918. The fever lasted for 2 or 3 days, but afterwards Baba gave up his food and thereby he grew weaker and weaker. On the 17th day, i.e. Tuesday 15th of October 1918, Baba left his mortal coil at about 2:30 p.m. Vide Professor G.G. Narke's letter, dated 5th of November 1918 to Dadasaheb Kapade, published in Sai Leela's magazine, page 78, first year. 2 years before this, i.e. in 1916, Baba gave an indication of his passing away, but nobody understood it then. It was as follows. On the Vijay Dashmi, Dasara day, Baba at once got into a wild rage in the evening when people were returning from Simolangan, crossing the border or limits of the village. Taking off his headdress, kafni and langota, etc., He tore them and threw them in the duni before them. Fed by this offering, the fire in the duni began to burn brighter, and Baba shone brighter. He stood there, stark naked, and with his burning red eyes shouted, "You fellows, now have a look and decide finally whether I am a Muslim or a Hindu." Everybody was trembling with fear, and none dared approach Baba. After some time, Bagoji Shinde, the leper devotee of Baba, went boldly near him and succeeded in tying a langota, which is a waistband, around his waist and said, "Baba, what is all this? Today is the Simulangan, i.e. Dasra holiday." Baba, striking the ground with his satka, said, "This is my Simulangan," crossing the border. Baba did not cool down till 11 p.m. And then people doubted whether the Chavadi procession would ever take place. The Chavadi procession would ever take place that night. After an hour, Baba resumed his normal condition and, dressing himself as usual, attended the Chavadi procession as described before. By this incident, Baba gave a suggestion that Dasra was the appropriate time for him to cross the border of life, but none understood its meaning. Baba gave also another indication as follows: averting deaths of Ramachandra and Tatya Patil. Sometime after this, Ramachandra Patil became seriously ill. He suffered a lot. He tried all remedies, but finding no relief, despaired of his life. He was waiting for the last moment. Then one midnight, Baba suddenly stood near his pillow. Patil held his feet and said, "I have lost all hopes of life. Please tell me definitely when I shall die." Merciful Baba said, "Don't be anxious. Your hundi, death warrant, has been withdrawn and you will soon recover. But I'm afraid of Tatya Patil. He will pass away on Vijayadashmi of Shaka 1840, which is 1918 AD. Do not divulge this to anybody, nor to him, for he will be terribly frightened." Ramachandra Dada got well, but he felt nervous about Tatya's life, for he knew that Baba's word was unalterable and that Tatya would breathe his last within 2 years. He kept this hint secret, told it to none but one, Bala Shimpi, a tailor. Only these two persons, Ramachandra Dada and Bala Shimpi, were in fear and suspense regarding Tatya's life. Ramachandra Dada soon left his bed and was on his legs. Time passed quickly. This month of Bhadrapad of Shaka 1840 in 1918 was ending, and Ashwin was in sight. True to Baba's word, Tatya fell sick and was bedridden, and so he could not come for Baba's darshan. Baba was also down with fever. Tatya had full faith in Baba and Baba in Lord Hari, who was his protector. Tatya's illness began to grow from bad to worse, and he could not move at all, but always remembered Baba. The predicament of Baba began to grow equally worse. The day predicted, i.e. Vijayadashmi, was impending, and both Ramachandra Dada and Bala Shimpi were terribly frightened about Tatya, and with their bodies trembling and perspiring with fear, thought that as predicted by Baba, Tatya's end was nigh. Vijayadashmi dawned and Tatya's pulse began to beat very slow, and he was expected to pass away shortly. But a curious thing happened. Tatya remained, his death was averted, but Baba passed away in his stead. It seemed as if there was an exchange. People said that Baba gave up his life for Tatya. Why he did so, he alone knows, as his ways are inscrutable. It seems, however, that in this incident, Baba gave a hint of his passing away, substituting Tatya's name for his. Next morning, 16th of October, Baba appeared to Das Ganu at Pandharpur in his dream and said to him, "The masjid collapsed. All the oilmen and grocers of Shirdi teased me a lot, so I left the place. I, therefore, came to inform you here. Please go there quickly and cover me with ample flowers." Das Ganu got the information also from Shirdi letters. So he came to Shirdi with his disciples and started bhajan and kirtan and sang the Lord's name all throughout the day in front of Baba's Samadhi. Himself weaving a beautiful garland of flowers studded with Lord Hari's name, he placed it on Baba's Samadhi and gave a mass feeding in Baba's name. Charity to Lakshmi Bai. Dasra or Vijayadashmi is regarded by all the Hindus as the most auspicious time, and it is befitting that Baba should choose this time for his crossing the borderline. He was ailing some days before that, but he was ever conscious internally. Just before the last moment, he sat up erect without anybody's aid and looked better. People thought that the danger had passed off and he was getting well. He knew that he was to pass away soon, and therefore he wanted to give some money as charity to Lakshmi Bai Shinde. Baba pervading all creatures. This Lakshmi Bai Shinde was a good and well-to-do woman. She was working in the masjid day and night, except Bhagat Mahalaspati, Tatya and Lakshmi Bai. None was allowed to step into the masjid at night. Once, while Baba was sitting in the masjid with Tatya in the evening, Lakshmi Bai came and saluted Baba. The latter said to her, "Oh Lakshmi, I am very hungry." Off she went saying, "Baba, wait a bit, I will return immediately with bread." She did return with bread and vegetables and placed the same before Baba. He took it up and gave it to a dog. Lakshmi Bai then asked, "What is this, Baba? I ran in haste, prepared bread, and with my own hands for you, and you threw it to a dog without eating even a morsel of it? You gave me trouble unnecessarily." Baba replied, "Why do you grieve for nothing? The appeasement of the dog's hunger is the same as mine. The dog has got a soul. The creatures may be different, but the hunger of all is the same. Though some speak and others are dumb, know for certain that he who feeds the hungry really serves me with food. Regard this as an axiomatic truth. This is a trifling incident, but Baba thereby propounded a great spiritual truth and showed its practical application in daily life without hurting anybody's feelings. From that time onward, Lakshmi Bai began to offer him daily bread and milk with love and devotion. Baba accepted and ate it appreciatingly. He took a part of this and sent the remainder with Lakshmi Bai to Radha Krishna Mai, who always relished and ate Baba's remnant prasad. This bread story should be considered as a digression. It shows how Sai Baba pervaded all the creatures and transcended them. He is omnipresent, birthless, deathless, and immortal. Baba remembered Lakshmi Bai's service. How could he forget her? Just before leaving the body, he put his hand in his pocket and gave her once he gave her 5 rupees, and again he gave her 4 rupees. In all, 9 rupees. This figure 9 is indicative of the 9 types of devotion described in chapter 21, or it may be the dakshina offered at the time of Simolangan. Lakshmi Bai was a well-to-do woman, and so she was not in want of any money. So Baba might have suggested to her and brought prominently to her notice the 9 characteristics of a good disciple mentioned in the 6th verse of chapter 10, Skanda 11 of the Bhagavad, wherein first 5 and then the 4 characteristics are mentioned. In the first and second couplets, Baba followed the order. First paid 5 rupees and then 4 rupees, in all 9 rupees. Not only 9, but many times 9 rupee passed through Lakshmi Bai's hand. But Baba's this gift of 9 she will ever remember. Being so watchful and conscious, Baba also took other precautions in his last moments. In order that he should not be entangled with love and affection for his devotees, he ordered them all to clear off. Kaka Sahib Dikshit, Bapu Sahib Bhuti, and others were in the masjid, anxiously waiting upon Baba. But He asked them to go to the Vada and return after meals. They could not leave Baba's presence, nor could they disobey him. So, with heavy hearts and heavy feet, they went to the Vada. They knew that Baba's case was very serious and that they could not forget him. They sat for meals, but their mind was elsewhere. It was with Baba. Before they finished their meals, news came to them of Baba's leaving the mortal coil. Leaving their dishes, they ran to the masjid and found that Baba rested finally on Bhejabai's lap. He did not fall down on the ground, nor did he lie on his bed, but sitting quietly on his seat and doing charity with his own hand, threw off the mortal coil. Saints embody themselves and come into this world with a definite mission, and after that is fulfilled, they pass away as quietly and easily as they came. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Sai, Sai Sai, Hare Hare, Hare Baba, Baba Baba, Hare Hare, Hare Data, Data, Hare Hare, Hare Data, Data, Hare Hare. Anantakoti Brahmanda Nayaka Rajadiraja Parabrahma Shri Satchidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Sainath Arpanamastu Shubham Bhavatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sairam, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow at 7:30. And please remember, if you all want to partake in doing an arti, have your arti thalis ready in your own respected homes, and we can all collectively offer the arti to Baba and pray for every single person, every single being, and everything what's happening at the moment, and the less fortunate, and every